Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Entrench seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which every unit and artifact that we play gains resilience. Today we'll be playing a deck based around one of the newly reworked cards that is incredibly powerful, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Skellige Patricidal Fury deck, built around the newly reworked Sihil card, which deals 1 damage to an enemy unit, and if we get the death blow, then we also get to play a bronze card from our hand in addition to Sihil, and put Sihil back into our hand to take the place of that bronze card. So basically that turns into a bronze card plus a little bit of bonus damage as well, which isn't great unless using Sihil is the first thing that we do on our turn, in which case with the initiative, when we put Sihil back into our hand, the amount of damage that it has increases by 1. That means if we can do that multiple times, Sihil will continue to increase in damage until not only are we still playing additional bronze cards from our hand, but that damage can become big enough that it becomes a legitimate removal threat. The trickiest thing is to get the first few death blows in place with Sihil when it still has very small damage. Then once the damage gets big enough, it should become fairly easy to get the death blow. So in order to set up that death blow, we'll use our leader ability, because doing so will spawn in 3 1-power deafening sirens on our opponent's side of the board, giving us 3 easy death blow targets for Sihil. Of course, we need to use our leader ability first, in which case, at least for our first round of Sihil, we will likely not trigger the initiative component, which means we still get to play the additional bronze card from our hand. However, Sihil's damage will not increase for the next time we use it. That's not a huge problem in the short term, because we would still have 2 additional 1-power units on our opponent's side of the board, giving us 2 easy targets for Sihil. So on our next turn, we can use Sihil again. That time, we will definitely have initiative, and then Sihil starts to become more powerful, so that the removal requires less or ultimately no setup. Other than that, we have a lot of bronze units to get on the board that either do damage or benefit from when we deal damage to opposing units, because that works well with Sihil. So that includes the Craite Greatsword, along with the Craite Longship, which is probably the first of the bronze units that you'll want to play when you get the death blow with Sihil, because this, of course, will weaken your opponent's units and make it easier to get the death blow with Sihil. Then more sources of damage, healing over time, boosts from damage, more damage, and moving in case your opponent has something like a defender. And also, if we have Gerd, we can play him rather than use our leader ability to get a 1-power unit on our opponent's side of the board to give us an easy Sihil target. And in this case, obviously, you're playing Gerd on one turn, and then you're playing Sihil on a subsequent turn, since you can't do them both on the same turn anyway, unlike the leader ability. But that's not a bad thing, because that means once you do end up using Sihil, you will have initiative, so you're going to immediately increase the Sihil damage. Then we also have the Arnachad plus Sukrus combo, which means that when played next to each other, once we're on 4 or fewer cards, every unit that our opponent plays will get damaged by Arnachad's power, which is incredibly powerful, especially if, with resilience, we can have this combo carry over into the next round as well. Ideally, you'd put Covenant to Seal in the same row to make it harder for your opponent to disrupt that combo. Then we have Dire Bear to prevent our opponent from boosting, which, if our opponent is using a very boost-centric deck, is an amazing counter. And we also have Tesham Mutna Sword, another recently reworked card that is incredibly powerful in this event, because since basically every unit is going to have at least 1 status, this means we have at least 10 damage, giving us great toll removal whenever needed. Then we also have Herkja, who helps to set up Sihil with her damage, and also sets up our other units that benefit from damage. She does have Veil, which means she will not gain resilience, so that is a significant weakness that she has, and for that reason, ideally you play her in round 2 if you're going for a 2-0 win, or round 3 when the lack of resilience is no longer a factor. And speaking of lack of resilience, that's what Tempest is here for, because it will purify and damage 3 of our opponent's units so that they can't carry them over into the next round. So there's a look at the deck, and it is all about finding new and creative ways to deal additional damage to our opponents, using 2 of the recently reworked cards that are amazing in this event. And then, of course, the classic Arnachad plus Sukrus combo. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have Arnachad, which is certainly a good card, but we'd love to pair him with Sukrus, and we don't yet have him. We do have Covenant to Seal, which can help protect Arnachad, but still, Sukrus is pretty crucial. Herkja has Veil, and therefore will not get resilience if we play her in any round, and so we'd like to wait and play her in round 2, or ideally round 3, where the resilience, or lack thereof, is not a factor. So let's get rid of her, and we'd love to get Sihil or an Oneiro as well. So not loving our hand at the moment. I think try getting rid of you. Raiders is marginally better, yes, but this round 1 hand is not looking great. So, the Craite Turtle, interestingly, will lose all of its armor at the end of round 1, and I assume that would still boost it, although units that have resilience lose all their boosts at the end of the round, so I actually don't remember if Draco Turtle would then enter round 2 with 0 armor and 0 boosts, or if it'll lose all its armor but get a pretty sizable boost. And that's pretty significant, because what I was just thinking of was because our round 1 hand just doesn't quite have all the components that we're looking for here, it may be worth keeping round 1 very, very short. In which case, what would we go with? We don't really have setup for the Warcrier. We could purify the Draco Turtle. Guess we'll go for a Brokvar Hunter. Obviously, we don't want to hit that Draco Turtle right now. But we're going to see if they play additional units next to each other. We can purify those with Tempest. And then maybe we end round 1 after that. Okay, there is Covenant of Steel, and I think all the more reason for us to do some purification. Obviously, Covenant of Steel is their defender, so we'd have to target that directly. And so we would still be able to purify Draco Turtle. It's a question of would they play another unit directly to the right of Covenant of Steel that we could also purify and damage with Tempest, in which case maybe it's worth waiting, or not. Or we could also destroy Covenant of Steel with Tesham Mutna's sword. That is also an option, but we purify it, it's no longer doing its primary purpose, and so maybe that's good enough. We could also move it if that is an issue, but what if first we go with a proactive on Craite Warcrier? We'll play it in the melee row just so we don't have units in the same row right next to each other where they could do what we're planning to do to them. And I'm gonna give it one more turn to see if they happen to play another card right next to Covenant of Steel, especially because if they're using their stratagem here, then there's perhaps a higher probability that they might place their next unit right in that spot where the stratagem once was. It looks like they will. Okay, and it's Sukrus, which is obviously huge because they may be trying to do the Sukrus plus Arnachad combo hiding behind a defender, but I'm afraid they placed those cards in the wrong spot for that, because this is now the perfect opportunity to use Tempest. This is why we waited, because we purify and damage all of those guys, and that means that their round 2 will not have any of those key cards. And they already invested very heavily. I mean, sure, you can purify and destroy some of our units, but it's just not going to be a huge deal when you're talking about getting rid of 4 provision cost cards. And actually, what we could do here is we can pass really early in this round, and we have resilience. They don't at the moment. They could continue to play here and just dry pass in round 2, but if they do choose to go that route, then obviously we have lots of additional card advantage in round 2. Okay, they'll go with the Caretaker, and that will allow them to purify our 1 unit. That may be all they're looking to play here. But they could theoretically still play 1 more card and dry pass in round 2, or they could just play a bunch of additional cards and lean on that resilience to give them the advantage. But even if they do go that route, they lost 3 of their best units for round 2 after we purified them, so it's not really a bet they should be taking to go even further along those lines. But they will go for it. It is Arnachad, so he will have resilience, but obviously Sukrus will not. They didn't even bother playing him next to Sukrus, so this does give them a lot of purification, and next unit that we play will get hit hard by Arnachad, but I still like where we're standing right now. Okay, so the biggest question here is just how do we deal with Arnachad? He loses his armor in between rounds, so he's just a 7-point body, which means we could take him out with Dire Bear, and we'll have a damaged Dire Bear, but maybe that's fine. We can also use Covenant of Steel. That could also survive. They can purify with the Caretaker, so that means I'd rather not rush into Covenant of Steel. If anything, we'd like to save him for at or near the end of the round, or wait until round 3 to play him. We can't destroy Arnachad with Tesham Mutna's sword. It's not quite enough because he doesn't have a status. So I think what we do is let's get rid of you, and maybe you as well. Looking for other ways to eke out slightly more damage. Ah, okay, so Drift was right. to get... Oh, I was expecting for it to be Sukrus. Not Covenant of Steel, but maybe they have Fukusia? They're going to use that to get Sukrus? But here's where having some movements with the Whale Harpooner could be very useful. Using that to bump the Covenant of Steel back into the melee row where it's no longer protecting Arnachad. And obviously, this will get destroyed by Arnachad. Arnachad would drop down to a 5. And at that point, he is removable with Tesham Mutna Sword if it becomes crucially important for us to do that. Well, we can't do that all in the same turn. We could use our leader ability, and that would certainly get rid of Arnachad. I'm just concerned about... Let's do this first. What I'm concerned about is if they play Sukrus on their next turn... Oh, it's not even active yet. Oh, but it will be on their next turn. Yeah, I guess we can't damage him by playing a big unit yet. What I'm worried about is if they get Sukrus out right now, then it's going to be hard to get rid of Arnachad. It is Fukusia. It is exactly what I thought they might do. And Sukrus. So they no longer have the defender to protect Sukrus. So we could go after him, and he has a bunch of statuses now, which means we definitely have sufficient damage to remove him with Tesham Mutna Sword. So we probably need to do that. And then Arnachad at that point is no longer protected by Sukrus, so sure, he'll deal damage. He will deal damage to us, but he'll deal damage to himself as well. At which point we can just play big units that are strong enough to survive Arnachad 7 damage, and shouldn't be too much of a problem in that case. So I think no matter what, it has to be Tesham Mutna Sword here. And Sukrus had Doom, so he's definitely not coming back. We could potentially justify using a Patricidal Fury here, and that way Arnachad would definitely get immediately destroyed, but he's not nearly as much of a threat now as he was before. So I don't think that's urgent that we go that route. Okay, Scoia'tael. Okay, so they were expecting for us to try to luck to shut that down. But, yeah, okay. It may have been worth going with our leader ability to immediately remove Arnachad, because if they continue to pile the boosts on him, he will become very difficult to remove, because now whatever unit we play will get destroyed by him. So, even our leader ability, what are we willing to sacrifice? I mean, if we get enough damaged units out there, then playing our own Arnachad will actually give him a bunch of additional armor, to the point where he may even be able to tank this Arnachad's hit. So, or at least to a certain extent, obviously not when he's at 12 power. But what I'm getting at is, maybe we go Zoltan Scoundrel in the melee row, deal damage to all these guys. That'll give them several damage units, which means Arnachad will have more armor. I think we do that. Does get Arnachad back down to a 7 as well. So we could have gone straight into leader ability and removed Arnachad. We'll see if they have even more boosts for him. But I do still have a plan here. Because what we can still do... I mean, we could have snuck in... we couldn't really have snuck in a Dire Bear without it getting destroyed. We can go leader ability, and with that, get more damage units, because they'll put 3 damage units on their side of the board. It will destroy our Patricide. But with, what, 1, 2, 5 damage units, that means Arnachad will be at 7 points with 7 armor. So we would be able to tank this hit just barely. But it might be better to go Patricidal Fury and then Dire Bear instead. And just remove Arnachad. I think we go that route. I think that is the way to go. You do that. It destroys our Patricide, as we were saying, but this gets rid of Arnachad altogether, and I think that was ultimately what needed to be done. Because not only do they no longer have the target of any potential boosting, but if they were planning to boost, then it's a little unfortunate that we lose the resilience on Dire Bear, but if they were planning to boost anything at all in that row, then of course it no longer works with Dire Bear. So we could opt to play our Arnachad fairly soon, or at least go Covenant of Steel and then Arnachad. We unfortunately do not have Sukrus, so still not perfect. I think for that reason, we probably do get Longship down here as quickly as possible. We obviously couldn't play it earlier, otherwise Sukrus would have, or rather Arnachad would have completely and immediately destroyed it. They do still have the Purification on Caretaker, which is going to make our round 3 potentially a little bit weaker. Morkvarg, they don't have a great target for that. And that was their last card. So that's all they can do here. And now it's just up to us to play units and hope that they add up to enough to catch them here in this round. And then with the carryover from our units that have resilience, if we do manage to beat them in round 2, I feel good about our round 3. But I think it is most important for us to prioritize the Bear Witcher Adept, because that starts weak but gets stronger over time, so we need to give it the opportunity to heal. So let's do that. Doesn't matter if it's in here, the same row as Dire Bear, because it can still heal. This counts as healing, not boosting, and so still works, even with Dire Bear. So then, same thing with the Greatsword. They are not going to have any additional damage units, so that's... actually they will, when we play the Raiders. So in that case, alright, still doesn't matter which row we go in. I suppose we'll go in the range row. Now we do want to make sure we have enough time to play the Raiders, although we have Bloodthirst 3, so it's not really going to matter all that much. Let's break out the combo that they were, of course, trying to pull off before. Covenant of Steel and Arnachad. And we actually may not even need to play Raiders yet. And 11 armor on Arnachad. Unfortunately, he's actually going to lose all that armor going to the next round. It would have been really nice, though. That was one of the reasons why we were saying we potentially might have been fine with just using Arnachad rather than our leader ability as our sacrificial lamb to their Arnachad, since the armor was going to help tank much of that damage. But it is enough for us to take the lead here. And I'm not entirely sure, when we're looking at what is resilience and what doesn't, how we're going to fare relative to them. But most importantly, we have Arnachad, and so it's going to mess with at least one of their plays at the start of round 3. And we do have one more card than them in round 3, in addition to, I believe, a few more points on the board than them, and they don't have any engines, whereas Arnachad is still active. On Craite Greatsword can still get boosted, or rather, healed. Sihil might be too little too late. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, Arnachad may set it up, but that's unlikely. Royal Decree could give us Sukrus. That is exactly what we're looking for. That is ideal. And for that reason, I think Bear Witcher Adept, I mean, this is going to be our first play. Bear Witcher Adept is not going to have much time to get healed up. So we'll get Oneiromancy instead, which is also obviously amazing. So we still have Covenant of Steel, we still have Arnachad. Let's get Sukrus down here, and we will do to them what they were trying to do to us. Except in our case, it should still work. And they'll just discard a card because it is almost impossible at this late stage in the game for them to have any sort of answer to this combo. So, I mean, we can continue to play here, of course, but just thinking about what we may want to do with Oneiromancy, and it may turn into a Herkja. That may be our best option. So I think we probably, if we do that, we can use Herkja, activate her in the melee row here, and make sure that we get to Bloodthirst 3, and that way we can play Raiders on our last turn and still have the opportunity to use that order ability. So I think that's fine, and we deliberately want to wait to play Herkja until round 3 anyway, because since she has Veil, she does not get Resilience. It's going to deal damage to Gerald Axie in the melee row anyway, which is going to heal up the Greatsword, so that's nice. Okay, and they'll discard yet again because they still don't have an answer for Arnachad. We'll continue to play just because, well, we don't know what their last card is. There's, I suppose, a theoretical chance they could still find a way to beat us. But we'll go with the Raiders now. And not yet Bloodthirst 3, so no Zeal. It doesn't matter yet because we still have another turn, so we have plenty of time to use that. But we are now at Bloodthirst 3, so this last one will be ready to go. If not, we could have used Herkja or this on Craite Raiders to set this up. And they obviously still could not find a way to take down Sukrus plus Arnachad, and so they forfeit. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and we'll go first. Okay, and importantly, we do have Sihil in hand, and that is obviously an amazing card, and we have several bronze cards in hand that we can use to play through Sihil, so I like that as well. And we do have Arnachad, but no Sukrus, and that is, of course, the second part of this combo that is so effective. So, might look to swap out something like maybe even Tempest in order to try to get the Sukrus to go along with Arnachad. Alternatively, we could just rely on our Curse Scroll to get it. That is certainly an option as well. Let's see what we can get here. Okay, we'll make do, and I think what we'll do is basically, depending on how many bronze cards we need, we will potentially swap one of those out to get Sukrus to go along with Arnachad. There's a chance that we could use all of them if Sihil turns out to have all the targets we could ever want. So we don't have any targets yet. We could either go with, on our first turn, our leader ability to spawn in some 1-power Sirens on their side of the board and then destroy them with Sihil. Because we wouldn't have initiative, that means we would still get the chance to play a bronze card from our hand. We just wouldn't get the increased power on Sihil. So instead, obviously we're not getting great damage out of Gerd, but we could opt to do that instead, because that would also give us a 1-power Deafening Siren. I think we still go leader ability, though. I think that is still preferable, because then we go Sihil. We take one of you out, and then I think we go Longship first, because that is definitely a good early round play. And so we do get Sihil back in hand, but what happens is that it's still at 1 power. It's not the end of the world, because we still have several 1-power cards that we can target with it on our next turn. Okay, Dunka. And getting down the Longship early can help set us up for additional Sihil targets, since obviously Dunka is not immediately a viable target. But once we start getting Sihil a little bit stronger, that may become the case relatively soon. Why don't we go Sihil here again? This time we'll get rid of another one of those Deafening Sirens. We do have initiative, so that means that this is going to make Sihil stronger. What do we want to get down there early? The Greatsword, earlier we play it, the more time it has to heal up. That's nice. There are not currently any damage units, definitely not a Warcrier. Raiders could play that pretty much whenever. I think it's either one of these two. Maybe go Brokvar Hunter to set up some more damage, because with the Zeal, we can then hit Dunka, and that does get us closer to getting rid of Dunka with Sihil. We'll have to go one more turn, probably targeting that Deafening Siren or Avallac'h. Let's see, what are they getting here, though? Hail the Ancestors, which will get Resilience, and they'll use that to boost up Dunka. Okay, so Dunka is going to be a little bit harder for us to take out in that case, but 1-power units here. Avallac'h does have Resilience, whereas the Deafening Siren does not, so we should probably go after Avallac'h with our Sihil. We could get rid of Dunka on this turn with our Tesham Mutna sword, since Dunka does have a status. We could have done that immediately, I suppose, but still feels like we might want to save this for a defender or something that's even bigger than Dunka, because obviously she's doing some hand boosting, so it might be best to go after whatever the hand boosting is landing on. So let's still go Sihil. And this time we'll get down the Greatsword, I think. It's probably a good time for that. So now Sihil is up to 3 damage, which should make it a fair bit easier to choose whatever target we like when you combine that with the 1 damage we're getting from the Longship. Obviously, we could still resort to taking out the Deafening Siren, but we would prefer to get something bigger. Okay, here's an Operator, which will get lowered down to a 4. And this is the card we really want to hit, the Sorceress of Dol B'Thana. They did put one on our side of the board. Now, any card that gets spawned in will not get Resilience, so this doesn't have Resilience here. So it's not a long-term threat, but unfortunately, Sihil is at a 3. So, I mean, we could hit the Sorceress and then use Sihil, and it wouldn't get any stronger, but it's still an option, and then we could get down on Craite Warcrier. That may still be worth doing. I think we might want to do that, because obviously we want to make sure that this doesn't get the chance to do anything. So we'll go Sihil here, and I think we'll go Warcrier. Does make sense. And then while we're at it, let's see what we can get with this Sorceress. We could deal some damage with Waylay, and drop Dunka low enough, or we could move Dunka. It's also kind of interesting. She doesn't get damaged by the bleed, though. I think we still hit Dunka. Because now she is in removal range. Even with Sihil. So that would be very nice. Bountiful Harvest. So yeah, they definitely appear to be a hand-boosting deck. It's just a little surprising that they went Call of Harmony as their leader ability, though. Oh, and they do have Ale of the Ancestors. Okay. So that will give them some additional boosting on this Sorceress, which may make that difficult to shut down. But they do have Bloodthirst 3, or we have Bloodthirst 3, so we can get 2 damage from the Raiders, which means we go Sihil to get rid of Dunka. We can play you. Sihil will get stronger. You will get Zeal. We can hit the Sorceress. It'll drop the Sorceress down to a 4. She can still use her Order ability in that case, but it's not as strong. Or we could just go Tesham, Mutna, Sword, and immediately remove you. I think we still save that. Let's go here. Let's take you out. Play you. Use you. Oh, except we destroyed a card that had damage on it. So yeah, now we only have Bloodthirst 2. Okay, fair enough. They'll get a more powerful Sorceress in that case. So be it. We also, for what it's worth, can go Arnachad plus Sukrus. They will use Spring Equinox to purify our melee row, so we deliberately split our rows a bit here, because that is always a threat in this event. It doesn't give them any points in the short term, but it does mean that now, obviously, we have way less carryover going to the next round. We may not have purified many of their units, however, we did, of course, destroy many of them with all of our damage, and so that is, in many ways, just better. They'll get rid of one of our cards in the range row. We do still have the carryover from Patricidal, and 11-point unit is significant. We could still get Sihil working here and get rid of the Operator. That's not necessarily something that we need to do right now. It's not super time-sensitive. Arnachad plus Sukrus is a little more time-sensitive if we want to make that happen in this round. Now that they've already played a Spring Equinox, it's unlikely they have another one in hand. I mean, they could very well have one in their deck somewhere, but the chances they have 2 in their hand, that's awfully risky. So I think perhaps what we do here is we go Curse Scroll, and we use this to get an Oneiro. And with that, we'll put Gerd back into our deck since we're close to triggering the downside of his Adrenaline there. We'll get Sukrus down, and we'll use Sukrus, I suppose for the moment, go next to you. We'll hit that Sorceress to get you down to a 4, and now we certainly have plenty of targets for sale if we'd like. So they could pass and just give us the round 1 combo, or rather, give us the round 1 win. But the risk in them doing that, ooh, they opt to purify Patricidal. I really thought they were going to go Sukrus. Obviously, it means we're losing an 11-point body, yes. However, what we can do is we can go with Arnachad next to Sukrus, and if we're on low enough number of cards, if we're on Adrenaline 4, even at the start of the next round, with this carryover, it will immediately trigger Arnachad's ability, and so they may just not be able to play anything at all. And this may be the card that we're looking to use Tesham Mutna's Sword on, because it could purify Sukrus or Arnachad. It will be on cooldown for the next turn, though, so I think what we do is we play you here. And they cannot yet shut this down with purification, at least not from the Caretaker. So obviously, we have way more points than them in round 1. We have very clearly won round 1. There's not much they could do to win round 1 from us, even if we pass right now. What we're really doing is fighting for round 2 by trying to lean on this combo right here. They're going to go Denna. She will immediately get destroyed, however, so I'm not entirely sure why they opted to do that. They do have another Spring Equinox. Wow. Okay. In which case, they obviously still cannot pass us here in this round, even if they want to, because we have a huge lead. We still have the Sukrus plus Arnachad combo, and, I mean, they could block or deal enough damage directly to Sukrus to shut this down, but that would take so many steps for them to pull that off with just 3 cards remaining. There's almost no way they can make that happen. They will, even if we pass here, get 3 units with Resilience carrying over, most significantly of which is, of course, the Caretaker because it's a 7-point body, bigger than all these other ones, and it could still purify our cards here. We will pass here, but it means that what's likely going to happen is they're probably going to pass, and then they're going to try to lean on the additional cards that they have carrying over into round 2 to lead them to round 2 victory. But it may not be that simple, because we got rid of many of their units with all of our damage. And Sihil is all the way up to a 4, and some of their cards that they carried over are on 4 power, so Sihil is capable of removing those, and we do have some more bronze units we can get out here with it. We saved Tesham Mutna's sword, so they did do a lot of hand boosting, still expecting them to have a big point slam. Maybe that's why they have the confidence in their round 2 play here, but this is our answer for that. And then Oneiro, of course, is nice, but what are we going to get with it? Possibly Dire Bear, although they've already done their hand boosting, so we may not be able to shut that down all that much. Not sure we're going to need Covenant of Steel here. I mean, obviously, we'll take Oneiro. We'll work with it. So we could play here, and yes, maybe we can catch up to them, put enough points on the board quickly enough that round 2 still makes sense for us, but I think more likely we're going to pass. And they will, therefore, they will not really have much benefit from the Caretaker, who's the most significant reason why we didn't want to play there. Because he could have purified anything that we played and potentially make round 3 more difficult. But they played a Sorceress, which means they will have card disadvantage going into round 3, but they will immediately be able to use her Order ability, which is an interesting choice. So we draw into Tempest for 6 damage plus Purification. That's most relevant in round 1 or round 2, when we can get rid of the Resilience. Not so much a factor in round 3 when the Resilience doesn't matter anymore. So for that reason, we're definitely going to dump you. Herkja has Veil, and therefore does not get Resilience. However, in round 3, that doesn't matter. So for the same reason we didn't want Tempest, we're fine having Herkja, so I do like that. I'm not sure if we're going to need Whale Harpooner, but maybe they'll try to hide their big boosted unit behind a defender, in which case having that movement could still be useful. Okay, Orb of Insight. We'll put Vitality on this Sorceress, which means we could now remove it with Tesham Mutna's sword. I think that might be a bit of a trap, because we know they did some hand boosting, and I mean, did some of that end up on this Sorceress? I don't remember if it did, but I feel like we can still have better targets than this. So I think what we do is we start off with the Herkja play here, to get the damage from her, and that will lower down the Sorceress a little bit, but it's basically just going to cancel out the additional boost from the Vitality. Yeah, they're doing additional hand boosting. So clearly they are still holding on to something big here. Okay, and then they'll get Circle of Life from the Sorceress. Herkja's still holding on, though, so we'll be fine. We could move this Hawker Smuggler with the Whale Harpooner, and that way it would no longer be able to do its boosting, since it is row locked in the melee row. However, why not just go for Sihil, because it has enough damage to destroy you altogether, and then we can play Craite Longship to get even more damage set up here. And Sihil is now up to a 5, and we do still have a few more bronze units in hand. Malena. Okay, yep. Both of these cards are row locked to the melee row. However, Herkja can still use her 1 damage per turn. We just can't use her order if she gets moved to the range row, so I was kind of hoping they were going to accidentally move Herkja instead. She was lower priority than Longship, which is truly shut down here. But, fortunately, we can destroy Malena with Sihil, because it's up to 5 damage now. And once we do that, probably looking to get the Greatsword down here, I'm thinking. So let's take you out and go Greatsword, because there are no damage units, so the Warcrier doesn't make that much sense for us here. Sihil now up to 6, which means we could even remove that Sorceress. Ooh, a trap. Okay. Not entirely sure what that's going to be. Could be a spring trap, dealing 4 damage to whatever we play here, in which case most of our units would die. Perhaps more significantly, though, if it is the one that destroys our highest unit when we use a special card, that could be a little bit painful. It would destroy our Greatsword. Maybe that's still a sacrifice we're willing to make, because if it happens to be that, well, if we play Sihil, we're also destroying their unit, the Sorceress, so we could go Zoltan, but we don't have a lot of stuff to damage with him. We could go range row and do some boosting, but even that's not all that effective here. I think we just take our Sihil, get the kill, and we settle for potentially losing this Warcrier. Okay, it is gonna, or in this case, it was the Serpent Trap. So yes, it did destroy our highest unit. But with no units on their side of the board, that is still not a huge problem. And it means that now we are comparatively, relatively comfortable playing Oneiromancy, because we know that they don't have another Serpent Trap, so it's not like they're going to destroy our highest unit when we play this. And if it is a Spring Trap, dealing 4 damage to whatever unit we play here, then doing something like Dire Bear, it'd be fine, it would survive. So would Covenant of Steel. So it's probably one of those that we want to go with here. Covenant of Steel could help protect Herkja and the Warcrier, which there's something to be said for that. So that may be worth going with. Whereas Dire Bear, as we were saying before, they've already done most of their boosting. So I'm not, with hand boosting. So I'm not sure that's going to be all that effective. Oh, well, I didn't think it was going to be a Pitfall Trap. That backfired big time. But, I mean, we do get a 7 power body down here safely, so, I mean, we do still have a 7-point advantage, but obviously that does hurt. The Cat Witcher is at 9 power. It was the recipient of 5 of their hand boosts, so we know it's probably that the hand boosting has gotten split amongst the remaining cards here. And we could completely destroy the Cat Witcher with the Tesham Mutna sword. We have enough damage to make that happen because it does have a status. However, the Cat Witcher is not going to damage anything on its next turn because it's going to have anything in our range row. We don't have anything in our range row. So it's not urgent that we do that. Sihil at 7 damage is not enough to destroy it. We are running low on bronze units anyway, though, so the death blow may not be all that important. Maybe we just go for the 7 damage and leave it at that. That may be what we opt for here, and save our bigger damage for the Tesham Mutna sword and whatever they have hand boosted here, which we think is still bigger. It's another sorceress. So I think we probably do. Do we hit you with the Tesham Mutna sword? We could move you to the melee row, but that's not really going to be all that meaningful. Zoltan in the melee row does hit both of you, which is something. Makes it so that you might not get Orb of Insight at 6 power on your sorceress. They do have an Orb of Insight in their graveyard, so they may be looking to get more of those out here, but yeah, nothing is great unless we go for Tesham Mutna sword and we just accept that we might be missing out on our big play, but I think we go for Zoltan. It's not perfect by any means, but I think we still really want to save this. It is an Orb of Insight. Oh, okay, well, in that case, we're just going to destroy this sorceress with Tesham Mutna sword. It's another Orb of Insight. They might get another round on, let's see, where they split these vitality boosts on Orb of Insight, because yeah, the one from their graveyard will come out. In fact, might have 2 coming from their graveyard here. We will get hit by that, but we can destroy either of these cards. Technically speaking, we may want to go Whale Harpooner first, and no, I think we just go Tesham Mutna sword. Destroy you. And then hit you and prevent you from hitting us, although they aren't going to take another turn. Either way, we'll take the win. Alright, so going up against Skellige here. And they'll go first in what could be a mirror match. Okay, so we have Oneiromancy. That's always useful. And we have Arnachad and Sukrus, so that is a big combo right there. Tesham Mutna Sword gives us a lot of removal. We could potentially use Oneiro to get ourselves either Covenant of Steel to help protect that Sukrus plus Arnachad combo. Dire Bear if we thought they were going to do a lot of boosting, but with Skellige, that's fairly unlikely. We could also opt to use it to get Sihil, and we have, I think, a fair number of bronze units in hand that we could play with that. Maybe we get rid of the Whale Harpooner. Okay, Roller Cree is certainly useful as well. And we can use our leader ability to help set up the Sihil play if we'd like. We wouldn't get initiative if we're playing Sihil through Oneiro, but that may still be okay, because it just means that we won't get the additional damage on Sihil, but we will still be able to play a bronze unit from our hand as long as we get the death blow. That is not exactly the order of operations they were looking for with the Raging Bear, and dropping Dandelion Poet down to 2 power is almost enough to immediately get into Sihil range, which would be nice. Okay, so tell you what I think we do. I think we go leader ability right off the bat. And so we weren't going to get initiative anyway, but what this does is it's going to get some 1-power units on the board so that we do have at least some deathblow-able targets for Sihil once we get that out using Oneiro. So let's go leader ability, and I'm trying to think if it matters much which row we go with. Don't think it should. So we'll do that, and then because they're now 1-power bodies, we can go Oneiro into Sihil. Again, no initiative, but that should still be fine, because if we use this to hit one of the Deafening Sirens, then we can get out one of our bronze units, and I think we start with the Longship, probably. That tends to be our best round starter. Okay, they'll go with Melusine, which will, of course, damage adjacent units, which means we can take out Dandelion with Sihil now, because Sihil did not increase damage, so we were initially planning to just take out one of these Deafening Sirens, but why not hit Dandelion Poet instead? And in terms of what bronze unit we'd like to play, we could go with a Warcrier, as that certainly will get boosted given how many damage units they have out here. That's a possibility. We could go with the Greatsword, because that'll also get powered up the longer it's on the board. This does have a hard cap in terms of how much it can get healed, so maybe we prioritize the Warcrier instead. Either way, let's go Sihil and take out Dandelion, and then yeah, I think we go Warcrier. Let's try to split our important units into different rows. That way, if they have something like Spring Equinox to purify cards, we won't be as significantly affected, or at least they won't have an obvious row to put that on. Okay, Oneiro into Blue Boy, which does make sense going next to Melusine, and in fact, can lower it all the way down to a 4 here and deal a fair bit of damage in the process. For what it's worth, Tesham Mutna Sword is capable of destroying Melusine right now, which may be worth doing, because Melusine, more often than not, in decks that have Melusine, is the most important card in that deck. So there's something to be said for going after Melusine here. I'm not sure we're going to have much better of a target to hit with Tesham Mutna Sword. So, I mean, unless they're going to go Sukrus plus Arnachad, in which case having as many ways as possible to deal damage without playing units would be useful, but I think we do it. I think we do it. They were going to rely on that, or at least as one way to damage Blue Boy, so we may, by extension, also shut down Blue Boy. And they may have been intending to get Melusine back in a subsequent round with something like Sigdrifa's Right or Fukusia, and so reducing the amount of time Melusine is on the board and increasing her base power would make that combo less effective as well. Okay, Gutting Slash is going to get rid of one of our Warcriers, but of course we still have one in our hand that we are perhaps about to play, because we can use Sihil and we can still get the death blow, and sure, we'd probably prefer to have something more enticing to go after than a Deafening Siren, but it's there for a reason, and that reason is to give us Sihil targets. So we'll hit you, and we'll get out another Warcrier. And Sukrus plus Arnachad will be active quite soon if we would like to go that route. They'll pass. Okay, so we are in the lead here, so we could just pass and take the win, and going into next round, we actually have a fair bit more resilience on the board than they do, or units with resilience than they do. So I do like the looks of that. We technically could play additional cards, and as long as I get resilience, it's not really going to be that much of a setback for us. Like, for example, if we started playing Sukrus and Arnachad right now, we'd get to Adrenaline 4 more quickly in the next round, and might be more difficult for them to shut that down. In fact, tell you what, I think we do that. I think what we do is we go, doesn't matter which row, don't think it's going to matter too much. Let's go Sukrus. Again, we can do this because these units are going to get resilience, so they will carry over into the next round. Arnachad, unfortunately, will lose his armor, but next to Sukrus, that's not going to matter. And so now what we do is we go Royal Decree, and the reason why this is even safer than just playing these and relying on the resilience is because if we go Royal Decree, then we can also get Covenant of Steel down here to help protect several useful cards in this melee row, and it means that we will trigger Adrenaline 4 more quickly in the next round, and so if we continue playing, then it'll get to the point where they just can't play any cards without taking the damage from Arnachad. So that is kind of tempting. And in fact, we could even continue to go with Sihil here. We'd love if we had enough damage to get rid of Blue Boy, but do this. We get the Greatsword down here. We get closer to activating Adrenaline 4. In fact, we would, after playing one card in round 2, because we are going to play first in round 2, we would immediately get onto Adrenaline 4, so they would not be able to play any units without taking damage from Arnachad. So I think it is still worth doing. And in this instance, maybe we played in the range row just so that we are 100% stacked in the same row. Okay, so there we go. We have a whole bunch of cards set up here in round 2, and we're going for the 2-0 win, of course. It is all down to, do they have a way of breaking through Covenant of Steel and shutting down Arnachad plus Sukrus? Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty rough day for them. We could use Zoltan to boost up these guys here. Although, Sihil is now at 4 power, we can immediately destroy Blue Boy and use that to get down another one of our bronze units, and we have a couple of them. We'd probably go Bear Wish or Adept, I suppose, since the on Craite Raiders is not as time sensitive. We did also draw into, or, well, this is the echoed copy of Oneiromancy, which we could use to get Gerd? Dire Bear? Take your pick. Herkja even? Either way, I think this certainly works. So let's go for Sihil here. And because this is going to destroy Blue Boy altogether, he will not get the chance to deal damage to us. And we'll go with the Adept. And again, I guess we'll go range row, just so we don't have absolutely everything in the same row. So of course, resilience only lasts one round, or only carries over from one round into the next, and that's why we are now all in for round 2, because these guys will not be carrying over into round 3. But we deliberately played all those cards, more cards than we needed to, in round 1, so that we would immediately be at the point where Arnachad would be active. Now, they did get rid of Covenant of Steel's Defender status, which is concerning because they may now have a way to shut down Arnachad. We're going to have to see about that. If they don't, then of course they're going to start taking a whole bunch of damage from him. But do we have anything with Oneiromancy that might help us out here? Are we getting boosted in the melee row? We are. The on Craite Warcrier, so that means Dire Bear would shut us down a bit there. I'm just thinking of Dogger for them in the melee row could be a good solution for them if they can find a way to get him down without getting destroyed by Arnachad. So maybe we wait on the Oneiromancy, and maybe we go Zoltan range row to boost ourselves here. Make Arnachad a little bit stronger. Tesham Mutna sword. Okay, they're smart. They went after Sukrus. rather than Arnachad, but because they purified, or, well, actually, Sukrus didn't have any status on him, because he lost the resilience going into round 2. It's not enough damage to destroy him, so they're still waiting. They have to get rid of Sukrus before they can get rid of Arnachad, and they don't have an answer, so they'll forfeit. So there's a look at a Skellige deck for the new Entrench seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.